This lesson is day 2 of Unit 3, Section 3. We are still in Section 3.2 in the textbook. So just a refresher, the imaginary unit is I, and I is equivalent to the square root of -1. All complex numbers written in standard form have their real part plus their imaginary part. So we're going to combine the idea of our complex numbers with actually solving some quadratics now. So today we're going to solve by square roots and by, well, really just by square roots. So here, when I don't have a linear term, right, my best bet is to solve by square roots. So instead of getting equal to 0, I want to get it equal to whatever the squared part is. So in our first one, I'm going to minus 4, so I can get the x squared alone. And now I would take the square root of both sides. So if you recall, anytime we took the square root of x squared, we did get plus or minus. So we're going to continue to do that now. And the square root of -4, remember, is the square root of -1 times the square root of 4. So that's an I, and that's a 2. So that's plus or minus 2I. All right, in B, all right, I'm still going to get the x squared alone, so I'll start by getting rid of the 11. All right, still want the x squared alone, so we'll divide by 2. And now when I take the square root of both sides, plus or minus, 18 I know breaks down to -1 times 9 times 2. Taking the square root of 9, I get 3, so that's 3 and I, and then the square root of 2. All right, let's do another one together. This one says find the zeros. It means the same thing. The only difference is it's written as f of x. So what we're going to do is we're going to change that f of x to 0 because we're finding the zeros. So now I have 0 equals 4x squared plus 20. I can minus the 20, so I have -20 equals 4x squared. Divide by 4, I get -5 equals x squared. And when I take the square root of both sides, I get plus or minus. 5 is really, or -5 I should say, is really -1 times 5. I could take that and I get I. I can't take the square root of 5, so it stays equals x. All right, you go ahead and try these 3. You could pause it and I will show the answer. All right, here are our answers. For the first one, x equals plus or minus I squared root of 13. For 2, I did end up with -8, so -8 is really -1 times 4 times 2. So I could take the square root of 4 and get 2. I could take the square root of -1 and get I, so 2I. 2 stays in. And 3, we just get x equals plus or minus I radical 6. So we're getting close to being done, but we have some quadratic problems where the x is part of a set of parentheses being squared. So if you recall, when this happens, we're still just going to go ahead and take the square root of both sides. So on this side, the square root cancels out with the symbol, with the squared, so we're left with x minus 4 equals. And this side we're going to reduce as we normally would, including our plus or minus. So -36 is really -1 times 36. That's an I, and that's a 6, so that's 6I. And now I would add 4 to both sides, and I'm going to keep it in the front. Remember, just like we did before, it'll also ensure that my answer is in standard form if I do that. 4 plus or minus 6I. If you want to separate them as 4 plus 6i and 4 minus 6i, you can, but it's not necessary. We can leave it like that together. Let's look at b. A lot happening here. So first I'm going to get rid of the plus 7 by doing minus 7. So everything else on this side stays the same, equals 60. Now I'm going to divide by negative 3, right? I can't distribute because that's squared, so it doesn't go in there. So now I'm going to have x plus 2 squared equals negative 20. Here's where I'm going to take the square root of both sides. So x plus 2 equals plus or minus square root of negative 20. So this one we're going to look at as negative 1 times 4 times 5. So here we get I, here we get 2, so that's plus or minus 2I. Can't touch the 5. And the last step is to minus this 2 over here, so we get negative 2 plus or minus 2I root 5. All right, so you're going to try the very last problem. You can pause it, and I will show the answer. All right, so I got x equals negative 1 plus or minus 2I square root of 3. And that is day 2 of our complex numbers unit.